Judy Woodruff. This Friday, the Cassini spacecraft is set to end its long tour of Saturn with a fatal plunge into the planet. It's been a workhorse and source for much of what we know about Saturn. It will beam back images until its final moments from some 800 million miles away. William Brangham has more. It's the focus of this week's Leading Edge. William Brangham. Some of the numbers involved in the Cassini mission are truly mind-blowing. More than 290 orbits of Saturn, nearly 5 billion miles traveled, 450,000 plus images taken. There have been nearly 4,000 papers published about the work. And it included the participation of 27 nations. Our science correspondent, Miles O'Brien, has this appraisal. This report was produced in partnership with our friends at Nova, whose program Death Dive to Saturn airs tonight on PBS. Miles O'Brien, 20 years after it began its detailed tour of Saturn, its rings and moons, NASA's Cassini spacecraft is winding its way toward a suicide plunge into the planet. It's the end of an epic space odyssey, Cassini's grand finale. Linda Spilker, Cassini project scientist. As the orbits progress, we get closer and closer to Saturn's atmosphere. Miles O'Brien, project scientist Linda Spilker joined the Cassini team at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory before launch in 1997. Their challenge now? Thread a cosmic needle, sending the spacecraft in between Saturn and its rings, eking out some final morsels of data before the mission is over. Linda Spilker, the mysteries we want to solve with the grand finale mostly have to do with revealing Saturn from the inside out. Miles O'Brien, surprising discoveries are nothing new for Cassini. The team has been pushing the frontiers of science for years and sharing spectacular images captured by the spacecraft. Caroline Porco, Cassini imaging science team leader, it's just such a surreal-looking planet. Really, it wins the beauty contest in the solar system. That's for sure. Miles O'Brien, Caroline Porco might be just a little biased. She's the lead scientist in charge of Cassini's cameras. Most recently, they recorded a storm on the north pole of Saturn that changes color from turquoise in the winter to golden brown in summer. Scientists believe sunlight interacts with molecules in the atmosphere, creating a sort of Saturnian smog. Over the years, Cassini has shown us the rings of Saturn in unprecedented, stunning fashion. They are about 175,000 miles across, but, in most places, only 30 feet thick. Caroline Porco, we get to see lots of places just really densely packed, where the particles are protruding 2 miles above the ring plane. I mean, it's astonishing. Miles O'Brien, and Cassini has also turned its instruments to Saturn's many moons. Porco's team captured images of plumes erupting from the icy moon Enceladus. Caroline Porco, this is what we saw. We saw dozens of fine jets shooting off the south pole of Enceladus. Miles O'Brien, they later determined the geysers were made of water ice and were loaded with organic compounds. They also found tiny nanosilica particles. Linda Spilker, what's so amazing is that those nanosilica grains could only form in really hot water. All of the sudden, the pieces started to fall into place, and so we're thinking, maybe you have hydrothermal vents on the seafloor of Enceladus. Miles O'Brien, hydrothermal vents, organic compounds and liquid water, the combination is very intriguing for scientists, because it is likely life began on Earth under similar circumstances. Caroline Porco, it doesn't get any better than this. To go to Saturn and come away having discovered what we think might be the best place in the solar system to go to search for life. Miles O'Brien, the prospect of life on Enceladus prompted the Cassini team to change plans for how the mission should end. If the spacecraft smashed into the icy moon, it might bring hitchhiking microbes from our planet with it. So, instead, Cassini will auger straight into Saturn, swallowed up by the giant gas planet where there is no possibility for the development of life. Still, Cassini's fiery end is no small task to engineer. The spacecraft has to be in tip-top shape, so it can beam data back to Earth for as long as possible. Julie Webster, Cassini spacecraft operations team manager, we are responsible for the health and safety of the spacecraft. Miles O'Brien, Julie Webster is the manager of the Cassini Spacecraft Operations Center. using exact replicas of the vintage electronics on board the spacecraft. Julie Webster, everybody talks about gigabits these days. We're down to kilobits. Miles O'Brien, she and her team are simulating scenarios for Cassini's final dive. Man, no red alarms, and we are go for orbit trim maneuver 467. Julie Webster, the timing of everything is highly choreographed. Woman, the accelerometer is powered on at this time. Julie Webster, because we are doing something almost every second on the spacecraft, and certainly every minute. Whom.